Click the links to join the channel on the various video platforms. So let's look at everyday in clown world. Gets a little bit more clownier. When you have clowns run your city, it's going to look like a circus. So some of these things these people are doing is insane. This is just Bolshevism. The point of this is, I suspect, to have the situation get so bad that they usher in a federal police force, because globalists, they want centralized authority and control. Decentralized power terrifies them, because then people can do things a different way, and you'll find towns and states that will do things successfully. And it might be a more nationalist, family-focused, law and order type of scenario. And then these, globalist states like California and whatever look at it, and it, makes them look bad, because they realize, like, oh yeah, these other states have law and order, and they're actually successfully running states, where you got like California, Oregon, and Washington are just, homeless nightmares. It's like the homeless tent cities throughout all three of the West Coast, because the policies that they put in place more than 50 years ago, to be fair. This stuff takes time to trickle down. Feminism, socialism, these globalist concepts that took, from post-war. That's how long it takes. It takes generational kind of damage to move people away from the concept of a core family into, oh, single moms, she don't need no man, and reliant more and more on the state. It's like, well, what does that do? When you pay for something, you get more of it, and if you replace the father in a home, well, you destroy society. It's why they always are pushing. I mean, they're using control of the state, the schools, the media, and pop culture to push this concept of the found family being just as valid as the regular core family, the blood tribe. And it's like, no, it's not. You clearly see that. It's the West Coast. The entire West Coast is just this nightmare. Anyway, so let's see. And to be fair, so any blue cities, and it's like, yeah, blue cities is kind of a euphemism. Like, we know what's up, but it's not just that. It's not just the Malum and Sayaks. It's the entire breakdown of a structure. Like, you only get tent cities and homeless and mass amounts of drug use when you have a society that's kind of giving up on itself, and it devalues the family. You have to have a family. The family has to be the core unit, not just the family, but the extended family, which is tribalism, which is blood tribe. It's not. It's the opposite of globalism, and right now globalism is being pushed because they want to destroy things as fast as possible, and they very successfully are. If you go this direction of globalist found family concept, you have the West Coast, where you drive through California, Oregon, or Washington. It's like their entire homeless tent cities or RV cities lined up, throughout the states. It's just like that didn't just happen overnight. That took 60 years to happen. To every generation has more and more single moms and less of a family structure. It's like the logic behind that is, when you have a family, you have resources to call upon, because you have parents and grandparents on both sides, and then great-grandparents, and you have this interconnected network. But when you have a single mom, all of a sudden you've cut off one half of those resources. And then when you have two generations of single moms, you see how it works. You're cutting off sets of grandparents. It's a generational wealth, and the POC cry right now is this something about generational wealth as if it's not earned. But it's not just that. It's because a lot of us don't have that generational wealth. A lot of us don't have anything. But it's a network where you're not going to let a family member, a cousin, live on the street when if they had to literally live on your couch. It's like you have this network, and you just don't have that. A single mom is like a society, a neighborhood can absorb one single mom situation where the husband dies away of natural causes or something, per so many strong family structures. But you can't have generations. You can't have it become a lifestyle. It absolutely destroys society, and that's not just some like far right wing Christian hyperbole. It's objectively true. You can look at people who are in prison, addicted to drugs, homeless. It's all coming from generations of single moms. It's a way to destroy society, which is what they absolutely want, because things get so bad enough they will seize control. So let's see what the New York City Democrats distributed flyers to merchants advising before calling police before a horrific attack, or I think it was an EMT worker was attacked. So council member Tiffany Caban looks like she's So she passed out this local business flyer where it talks about what you do instead of calling 911, and she gives some of the advice how to de-escalate things. So the most ridiculous section of the guide is titled, "Are you encountering a conflict?" Keep in mind, you're encountering conflicts with people who are whacked out of their minds on drugs. The people have nothing left to lose. You've seen the horrific violence in New York City coming from the violent community. Imagine, like, people being pushed in front of trains, stabbings, shootings, just beating each other to deletion, just mass amounts of violence where none of this kind of mental health workers, social worker type of concept. You're dealing with human crocodiles, and none of that is going to work. It's like they'd have to be armed with guns and pepper spray and tasers and bats. It's like, oh, okay, so they're just police. You're saying you want police who try to talk to people a little bit more first. The thing is, police deal with these people, and I'm not saying the police are perfect by far. We want, like us on the right and the left, we all want better police. But you're talking about a society that is, as we devolve into the third world, that ship has sailed. You're not going to get better police. You're going to get more police brutality, a more totalitarian state, because there's no way to make rules for high trust and low trust people. You have to devolve to the lowest common denominator, the low trust social construct. High trust people can live a certain way, and they do, but low trust people can't. And if they're mixed, as they do in cities, there's no way to have one high trust rule that applies to everyone, because you have low trust crime. You have what you see in San Francisco and on the coasts, people just breaking into cars, like just going from car to car to breaking these Tesla windows, just pulling everything out of the trunk, or going into stores and just stealing, filling grocery bags, filling black plastic bags full of stuff, and walking out, and it's like, well, it's not prosecuted under $950. And the truth is, most of the goods they're taking is over $1,000 anyway, but they're still not getting prosecuted, very rarely, or they're going into high-end stores and clearing them out. That's just a society that's in decline, but they vote for this, and there's no way out of this situation. You logically think, oh, well, these San Francisco, LA, New York are going to vote differently next time. No, they're not going to vote differently. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but you've seen these people, like Trudeau gets elected and Gavin Newsom gets reelected. All these people keep getting reelected, and they're going to continue to get reelected. You look at, is it Scott Wiener or Anthony Weiner on San Francisco City Council or State Senator or something like that? These people constantly get reelected because they have the money to campaign for votes, and they will continue to get reelected and go like, yeah, they're literally voting for this. Yeah, they really are. They really are. The solution for this doesn't come from the system itself that created this. The system created this. This is the natural progression of Weimar, or the right wing will call it Weimar, the left wing will call it late stage capitalism. It's something, but this is a YouTube video, so I'll leave it at that. But the solution doesn't come from the system that created this system. This is societal decay. The solution comes from the ground up, which is difficult historically speaking, but the only difference now is social media and technology has made it where it might be possible to have a ground up change where you have groups of people say, listen, we're just going to have we have to have a different type of society, de facto as well as de jure. We have to enforce borders, and at the national level, that's a lost cause, but at the local, state level, county level, you might be able to create something. Like, you can do things if you really, really want to do them, and if you have people who are like-minded, and you have a lot of people who are willing to go by any means necessary to accomplish, peaceful, legal, constitutionally protected change, to say, like, we're going to create a city or a state where we're still part of the union, but we're going to have borders, and we're going to have a different type of society where we just don't want this kind of crime. Where we punish crime, and you're like, well, that's the constitutional republic that you're in now. It's like, no, because we know it's not. Like, we know it always gets subverted by media propaganda and these unions. The Weingarten at the teachers union. Like, we know who's subverting and corrupting, and like, you have to have a society free of that, and you're not going to you're not going to get it from the top down, which historically is what happens. You have to get it from the bottom up. I mean, some of these, like this, you know, there's how many memes are there of defund the police, defund the police, defund the police. All these, like they literally painted that on streets, and where people were driving over and spinning their tires, they would get arrested. And there's 9 minutes on Twitter, 9 minutes of politicians saying defund the police, literally defund the police, and put the money into mental health services, something like that. I mean, that's just insane to think. The crime you've seen, there's no shortage of Telegram and Gab videos. Like, you're not going to see this on YouTube, but you'll still see it on Twitter for a little while, of just horrific levels of violence. And you think, like, yeah, mental health workers are not can't do anything to that when somebody is just, you got people in the cities who are just beating each other to death. Like, they're crazy people. The only thing that works is crime and punishment. I forget who wrote that. I probably couldn't pronounce the guy's name anyway. This kind of stuff of, like, to talk to somebody who's either mentally ill or insane or to the left of the bell curve, or just has inability to control impulse control and a tendency to violence. Like, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, this is just insane levels of delusion to think that you're gonna I'll go out there with my cell phone. It's like, you better be going out there with a pepper spray and a 357, because that's the only thing the pepper spray will slow them down. And I mean, it's insane to think, like, oh, so you pay taxes for police, but you're not going to call the police because you don't want criminals to be. It's like the police come and they arrest them, and they're doing mostly what they're supposed to do, but then the DAs and the judges release them. It's catch and release. So, like, you're asking for a city to fail, and you go, yeah, it's getting pretty bad now. Chicago's like 2 or 3 people get deleted a day on average. Detroit, St. Louis, like all those cities, you know what I'm talking about. The violence is off the effing hook, and eventually you think, oh, people are going to wake up. They haven't so far. Like, if you think they're going to vote in further right-wing candidates to go, hey, I'm a right-wing candidate, I'm going to run against these state senators or these the governors and mayors, and we're going to have, I mean, kind of be at like the state senator or the governor level, like we're going to run a Republican against it, like we're going to have crime and punishment, we're going to gotta stop the Soros-funded DAs, and you're going to got to put people in prison for a long. I mean, that's the only thing that stops crime, is when people are physically restrained from doing it. You have a lot of people, but it's like, that's just that is, to be fair, like the left wing, that is half the equation. But what the left wing will never admit is, like, like 60 years of socialism, feminism, single motherhood is the other half of the equation. Yes, you can put these mostly men in jail, but for a long time, prison for a long time, for 20 to 50 years or more, to literally just take them off the street. Admit, like, there is no rehab for these people. They cannot be saved. But it's, if you don't take care of the single mom problem, and the state will never admit that, because that's, like, the globalists are in firm control. And people still think, oh, we have to vote Republican. It doesn't matter. Going from voting Democrat to Republican got us in the same situation we're in right now. You're looking at, like, the fall of a nation. It started. I mean, the last nail in the coffin was 1965, with Emanuel Seller opening the borders almost completely unopposed. But to be fair, the money that was backing the Hart-Celler Act in 1965 was like this. It's the same type of Soros, Rothschild, Schwab, Larry Fink type of money. Globalists have been acting almost completely unopposed for like 100 years, and it took 100 years for this to happen, or even more than that if you want to go back to Civil War. But it happened. It's like the situation doesn't solve itself. And it's not going to be solved from the politicians, who won't even name the problem. That Newt Gingrich talked about Soros once in that Fox interview, and you saw what happened. Those 2 girls wet their panties to shut him down. They just lost their freaking minds. And Newt's looking around like, what's the problem with talking about Soros funding district attorneys and buying judges? We don't need to talk. You can find the interview on YouTube. It's terrifying. Anyway, so I mean, I don't know how bad things have to get before people wake up. But things are pretty bad now, and they're still not waking up. Like, San Francisco is going to elect left-wing people for their city councils, for their state senators, for their mayors and governors. Like, the mayor of San Francisco, I forget her name, London Breed, I think. So she's like, she has these rules for the Wu-Flu, right? And then she's out at bars and nightclubs drinking and dancing without any, coverings in front of her face. And Gavin Newsom, the mayor, is out at dinner parties at Napa Valley. He's with like 20 people at a big table drinking and having dinner. It's like, that's fine, but he's like, he has these rules about, oh, we need to separate and wear these coverings in front of our faces. Like, but you're not doing that. Neither's the mayor. Oh, okay, yeah. There's no way to say, like, when you see this kind of hypocrisy, like, those people are all going to get elected. Everyone in San Francisco, they see people breaking into their Teslas or breaking into their garages, weekly, or people looting the stores and just literally selling it right out on the street. They throw down a blanket and just sell the stuff they stole. That's a dead civilization. Civilization was dead in 1965, and no one. It's like, it takes 50 years, it takes 100 years, but it's what you have now is the end result of it. And no, I don't think those people are suddenly going to vote Republican, because I mean, they haven't up until now, and they're not going to be voting these next elections. Like, the same left wing people, they keep, like, I consider left wingism, and even like the MAGA cons, I don't know what to call all that stuff. The people who don't really know the way of the world, I consider it all a mental illness. Because like the right wing MAGA group, there's those normies, and the left wing normies, like, they don't really know what's going on because they've been brainwashed by, it doesn't matter if it's Fox or CNN, it's the mainstream media for the past generations, but it's been like over 50 years of this kind of brainwashing. So like both wings of that same bird, they never stop to think, yeah, it doesn't matter if you vote left or right, you're going to have to vote for something different. If you continue to do the same things, you're going to get the same results, and it's insanity to think you're going to have a different result. But this kind of egregious, you know, distract attention from some mentally ill, intoxicated person. It's like, this is at least 60 years in the making, to try to think you're going to have a mental service person spending like tens of thousands of dollars for each interaction of taxpayer money, because these people who are receiving it don't pay into the system, and at the same time funding all these other programs. It's like, you've got to look up, realize you're going to have a radical change, and a lot of that includes crime and punishment, but it also means like left-wing people are going to have to be prohibited from moving to a state. Like, a state has to be, you have to be able to create zones where like-minded people can live together. Otherwise, left-wing people will just go in those states and vote left, and you'll just continue to have what you have now. Like, you have to. That's about as far as I can go for YouTube. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next episode.